Echo's reflection. Echo Dollinger was on her way to achieving every life goal she had set for herself. She was an associate professor of philosophy at an esteemed public university with numerous high profile papers to her name. The previous year, she had written a book on phenomenology and Marcel Proust that had charted on a number of bestseller lists, cementing her status as a rising star in academia. She also had a wonderful fiance, a man named Robert Simmons. Echo had met Robert at a local art gallery 3 years prior, and they had been dating ever since. He was a successful broker at Farrell Dench and the embodiment of her girlhood dreams. Smart, handsome, and successful. They were engaged and looking forward to their life together, including the prospect of children. It was a brisk February morning when Echo and Robert walked Clinton Street in Binghamton. They were on the lookout for the perfect bathroom mirror for their neo-Victorian furnished home. They made their way down Antique Row, popping into each and every shop, and found no mirror to their liking. They were about to give up when they came to the last store on the block, Marvelry's Curiosity Shop. They went inside and were taken aback by the shop's odd assortment of bizarre knickknacks and magician's tools. A skeleton key fashioned out of real bone, a cuckoo clock with a black cat that yelled the hours in place of the bird, a toy guillotine. They had a good laugh at the items for sale and were about to leave when the shopkeeper strode out from the back room. "What's the matter, folks? Nothing catch your eye?" The man made Echo and Robert uncomfortable. Where all the other shopkeepers on Antique Row fit their expectations, upper middle class, well dressed, reserved disposition, this man was like a carnival barker. His eyes and smile, both wide to the point of lewdness, were enough to give them the creeps. "I don't think you've got what we're looking for," said Echo, looking around at the strange books on the shelf, vivisections of non-vertebrates, a cannibalistic history of central New York, the vortex of Rapa Nui. "We're in the market for a mirror, something for the bathroom with an Edwardian sensibility," added Robert. "Indeed," said Marvel Rye. Echo was practically out the door when she caught sight of a partially covered mirror and paused. "That mirror, is it damaged?" she asked. "Certainly not. It came from the Robertson family. You may have heard of the museum they helped fund across town," replied Marvel Rye. Echo went to the mirror and removed the silk cover to study its craftsmanship. "So, you're Dr. Merrilai?" said Robert. "It's pronounced Marvel Rye. No doctor necessary," replied Marvel Rye. "Miss, I haven't had that mirror long. I bought it at a chariot auction at the museum just before Christmas. It's in great shape. What do you think, Robert?" The man approached the mirror, then stopped. "What hideous lighting!" Echo laughed. "I never knew you to be so vain, dear." "Don't worry, Robert. A mirror can never reveal your true nature," stated Marvelry. "Mr. Marvelry," replied Echo, donning her philosopher's cap. "What could be a truer representation of self than the apperception of one's own reflection? The way you and Robert reflect each other is much more honest. Robert's beauty can never be perceived by Robert as fully as when you study him the way you do," said Marvelry. "Sir, constructing and maintaining an image of oneself predominantly from the feedback provided by others is often an indication of clinical sociopathy," answered Echo, smiling. "But we'll definitely take the mirror. It's perfect." Marvelry clapped and rubbed his hands together. "Excellent. You two have got great taste. Now let's ring you up." He walked back to the register. Robert followed, removing his wallet from his coat pocket. Echo ran her fingers over the mirror's rosettes and beveled trim, imagining how it would look paired with the bathroom's rosewood cabinets. She gazed into the glass again and did a double take when she caught an odd reflection of herself, looking to be easily 20 pounds heavier than her current weight. She examined the mirror from the side. It was neither too concave nor convex. She looked dead straight on it again, and this time, the woman staring back at her appeared perfectly normal. Chalking the strange reflection up to the shop's unflattering lighting, she walked over to Robert, who was in the process of finalizing the transaction. "Thanks again, folks. I hope this piece makes a fine addition to your home," said Marvelry, as he wrapped the mirror with newspaper and bound it in between two pieces of heavy cardboard. You two take care. Echo and Robert said goodbye and carried their new possession out of the store. Robert placed the mirror on a blanket in the back of their SUV and off they drove. When they got home, Robert carried the mirror upstairs to the bathroom connected to their master bedroom. Taking direction from Echo, he hammered an anchor into the wall over the sink, then picked up the mirror and placed it in position between a pair of cabinets. When he removed his hand from the back of the mirror to let it rest against the wall, he jerked his head back at the image before him. A hideous purple and black bruise was running from his temple to his cheek, as if he had been severely beaten. He blinked his eyes rapidly, disbelieving, then turned back to Echo. Honey, what the hell? Did you see that? What? She said, perplexed by her husband's sudden vexation. He looked back at the mirror, but the unsettling image had vanished. He ran his fingers over the supposedly bruised portion of his face, but it wasn't painful to the touch, nor were there any abnormal marks or lumps. Nothing. I must be tired. Like Echo earlier, he attributed the strange reflection to a trick of the mind, a result of an odd angle. After settling in from their shopping trip and attending to other items they had picked up that morning, Robert and Echo discussed their wedding plans. The color would be coral. There would be exactly 150 guests, and the vegetarian option at dinner would be a gluten-free pasta. Talk of the future led as it tended to the inevitable discussion of children. Echo had some reservations about staying home with their future progeny and losing momentum. She knew children would bring some form of career hiatus, an inability to write in private for hours at a time, and a break from the hallowed halls of academia. But as a woman with strong beliefs in early education, she couldn't just let them run rampant in daycare. Robert was supportive of her career, but plain biology would dictate that a woman must make certain sacrifices a man simply never asked to. The following morning, Robert left for work while Echo finished doing her makeup in front of their new mirror. Her first class wasn't until 10 a.m., so she had time to get lost in her thoughts. She didn't immediately notice her own reflection alter. She had been thinking of a few of her newly postpartum friends, their fatigue, physically and emotionally, and was pulled from her trance when she noticed that her own imagination had transformed her reflection into a sympathetic state. A weariness weighed beneath her eyes. She had even developed slight jowls. She blinked several times, then stared back at the mirror. She relaxed at the return of her normal figure. There she was again, svelte, alert, her body unmarred by motherhood. When Robert returned from work that evening, he told her that one of his colleagues had been assaulted and robbed in the parking lot during lunch. Rob, you work late and they don't have enough security around that building. Will you promise to be careful and come home a little earlier for a while? You know I can't help my hours. I'll stay safe. On a positive note, I think they're going to make me a managing director soon. Isn't that great news? They had a nice dinner at home. Echo refrained from bringing up the topic of the mirror, her morning shock and its psychological implications. The next morning, Robert was up at 4 a.m. sharp, ready to start his workday. He was shaving in the bathroom mirror. The house was quiet, so quiet that he could hear Echo toss and turn in the other room. He looked down and dipped a safety razor into the water to rinse it off, quickly returning the blade to address a few errant hairs above his collarbone. When he looked up, he saw a figure in a black ski mask standing behind him, as if he were ready to strike. Robert shuddered, and when he flinched, he cut his neck with his razor. What the heck was that? Robert looked around the bathroom for anything that might resemble the intruder. It certainly wasn't someone at the window, as he was on the second floor. When he turned back the mirror to check his neck wound, an eerie feeling passed over him. His face was bruised again, but this time, the longer he stared into his reflection, the deeper in color and more real the blemish seemed to become. He raced into the bathroom, turned on the light, and woke Echo. "Look at my face! The bruise is back!" he yelled. Echo awoke in a panic at his fearful excitement. "Let me see," she replied, somewhat groggy and unsure of what exactly was happening. "Rob, I don't see any bruise. You cut yourself shaving, and it's practically streaming down your neck. Go get a towel." "What do you mean? There's definitely a bruise." He hurried back into the bathroom to check his face. Sure enough, the bruise was gone. and his neck needed blotting and a bandage. The rest of the day passed uneventfully for the couple. Echo taught class, Robert sold oil futures. That night, when they went over their wedding details together, they found themselves arguing over minutiae that they would normally have let pass without conflict. We should have hired a wedding planner. We both have too much on our minds to have to worry about table decorations and listing every single song the DJ's going to play, stated an exasperated Robert. This is more important than our work. This is about us and our future. We should be enjoying this time together because soon enough, we'll have to pull all of our energy into a baby. Why? Are you pregnant? Robert's tone irritated Echo as if he were accusing her. No, but don't worry. It'll all fall on me anyway. You'll be a managing director at Farrell Dench, and I'll be stuck at home with my tristas on Merleau-Ponty, untouched and unfinished for years. Robert went to bed early that night. When he saw the nasty bruising return while washing up, he said nothing about it to Echo. She too had an encounter with their foreboding mirror that evening. While Robert slept, she witnessed something unlike any previous vision. The mirror became a looking glass into a living room where a pretty toddler stood. A frumpy, overweight woman then entered the picture, carrying two screaming twin baby boys. The ragged woman was stone-faced and dead-eyed. She looked absolutely miserable, having to deal with the day-to-day grind of motherhood. Echo tried to tell herself that she was simply projecting her anxiety over her future with Robert onto the mirror, but it looked and felt so real to her. That she would become that sad shell of a woman seemed almost inevitably not just a possible outcome based on present and future choices she was free to make. She wanted to wake Robert and share her fears with him, but she didn't want him to think her weak-minded. Robert's morning routine was again marred by the ghastly bruising in the mirror. He had slept poorly and thought it better to just get on with his day, rather than give the vision any credence. He left before Echo's alarm went off, wanting to give her more time before properly addressing their scuffle. He loved her as plainly and purposefully as on the day they first met. He was confident that she would be his lifetime companion and the mother of his childhood unto death. Echo felt almost hungover from her poor night's sleep. She got ready for work with a small handheld mirror she kept in her purse, rather than again bear witness to her own psyche made real in her new antique mirror. Her day wore on slowly. Not looking into the mirror was perhaps worse for her. She could only think about what it would have revealed had she looked that morning. Would it have shown her children grown and gone? Her divorce from Robert? Her own death? What horrible things would await her when she eventually looked back into that abominable metal-coated glass? Echo didn't get any work done that day and left the college early. By the time she got home, she was sick with anxiety and had to run upstairs to vomit into the toilet. She felt better after heaving and started a warm bath, but ultimately she couldn't help herself and turned to look into the mirror. There, she saw the living room again, this time with 3 school-aged children at play. Echo saw herself on the couch, now seriously overweight, staring at something on the TV like a zombie. In that moment, she resented Robert, that he would allow her or even pressure her to make the life choices that would lead to the end of her intellectual life. Echo knew she couldn't blame Robert, the only man she had ever truly loved, for the choices she would have had to make freely. She knew in her heart that the mirror, whether a psychical projection or something more fantastic, was an honest picture of one form of her future. Dr. Marvelrye was very much wrong about a mirror's inability to project an honest image. If she became Robert's wife and raised his kids, she was looking at her future and at the end of her freedom to fully pursue her one driving passion in life, the development of her intellect. There was no future for her without Robert. She knew and felt that as an absolute truth. The only alternative was to face the unknown, a life without him, and a life without Robert was certainly not worth pursuing. She couldn't stomach the prospect of ever living a life unexamined, just carried along into old age the same as everyone else without routinely stopping just to be conscious of what it means to be a living, breathing being in the world. Echo lashed out and punched the horrible mirror. Her sizable engagement ring caused the glass to shatter into nasty shards in the sink and onto the floor. She watched the blood from several small cuts run down her hand and wrist for a few minutes. She texted Robert, "I'm sorry," before stepping into the warm bathtub now brimming with water. Robert, having also carried the daily anxiety of the mirror, instinctively knew from Echo's text message that she was in danger. He left work and raced home. When he found her in the bathtub, her wrists were slit and the life had drained from her face. He screamed and picked up a large shard from the edge of the bathtub, which she had used to end her life. As he wailed for his lost love, he witnessed the horrible facial bruise fade from his reflection in the mirror fragment. Echo Dollinger was dead and buried 5 years when Robert Simmons finally married. He and his wife had trouble conceiving as they discovered Robert was sterile.